Welcome to the show. I'm here today in beautiful South Frankston at our family friend's house, the Wilsons. Today I'm going to whip up some beautiful winter favourites, starting off with a mushroom risotto, a beef burgundy, and finally a sticky date pudding you're just going to want to curl up in front of the fire with. So come join me in the kitchen. Mushroom risotto is a beautiful wintry food. Heaps of my friends try and cook it at home and they never have much luck with it, but I really love cooking it and love eating it, so I never mind showing them how to do it properly. There's just a few little steps you can take to make sure it's full of flavour and comes out exactly like you get it in the restaurant. To make it, you'll need some shallots, 100 grams of parmesan, 1 litre of chicken stock, some garlic and some chilli, some butter, some salt and pepper, some nice portobello mushrooms, and 250 grams of arborio rice, and parsley and basil, and some white wine. So to begin with, start by dicing up your shallots. Just as fine as you can. The reason we're using shallots and not onion is they're quite a bit sweeter than onion, and they do have a slightly different taste, but they are a little bit more expensive, but definitely worth it. Add your shallots to your pan. And just let that cook. It's just on a low heat at the moment. We'll add a bit of butter as well. Just let them soak that up, and we can start slicing our garlic and chilli now. So just a little bit of chilli. You just want the flavour of the chilli, you don't want the heat of it. And plenty of garlic. Just slice your garlic nice and fine like this. If you cut your garlic up too much, it changes the flavour of it. It makes it quite harsh. Whereas if you just slice it, you just get the sweetness. So now we can begin to just slice up our mushrooms. You can use whatever mushrooms you like, but I find that portobellos generally have plenty of flavour. So because mushroom's the main flavour, we're going to put in plenty of mushrooms into this, and they will sort of break down a bit anyway, so I'll generally slice some like that so you can see them through it, and that's nice, and the rest I'll just cut a bit smaller. If you just cut them small like this, it means you get a little bit of flavour in every single fork. You don't really need to have a big mushroom on there then to get all the flavour. So I think that needs a little bit more butter now. It's soaked it all up. We're just letting that cook down, letting it saute out a bit. I will turn it up a little bit now that the mushrooms are in. Maybe get a bit of colour on them. So while that's happening, we can start chopping up some of our herbs to go in. So I'll just pick off about 4 nice large basil and just a little handful of parsley. You don't want to use too many herbs because they'll really overpower the flavour, and you really do just want to taste the beautiful mushrooms. If you want something a bit more hearty, you can just add chicken, and you'd probably add your chicken at about this stage now, or even a little bit earlier if you like, but certainly don't put it in at the start because your onions and things won't cook through. You can smell all the flavours coming out, the mushroom and the herbs, and that means, well, we'll put some salt and pepper in first, and then we're going to add our rice. It's quite important to toast your rice. This is one of the reasons why a risotto in a restaurant isn't gluggy. When you do it at home, you'll see that the centre of the rice still remains white, but the outside of the rice becomes clear. And this happens with arborio rice. And the reason why this happens is because the oil and fat has been soaked in, but this sort of slows down the absorption of the liquid when you cook the rice later on, and that's what stops it going gluggy. So now that our rice is toasted, we can add our white wine. Just wanted to glaze it with some white wine and get any of sort of the mushroom or anything that's caramelised on the bottom. The white wine will lift that off. So around a cup of white wine, and we just want to let that cook out. When you cook wine out, it sort of reduces the tannins in the wine and it makes it not as harsh. That's why we always add the wine first. Because if you cook it out now and reduce it now, you get the really nice reduced flavour of the wine. If you just added the white wine and the stock at once, they're going to come down together and the white wine's not going to have a chance to reduce. So that's why we cook it out separately. So now that all that white wine's reduced and been absorbed, we can add our stock, just a little bit of it at a time. When you add your stock, you just want to add it a third at a time. The reason we do this is because it cooks very differently when you do it this way. If you just add all of your stock at once, then it's just going to boil the rice, so you're not going to get a risotto texture out of it. When you add a little bit like that, you can see in the pan that you're getting the heat from the bottom of the pan, and that's half cooking it, and the other half is coming from the water. You're almost braising the rice is what you're doing, because that works in the same way of just using the heat of the pan and using the liquid to be absorbed as well. So it's sort of half boiling, half frying the rice. So as soon as that's all been absorbed, add another third. So we'll just let this tick away now. Shouldn't take too long. Once you've got everything cut up, it should take around 18 to 20 minutes to cook a risotto. So none of this 45 minutes standing at the stove stirring it. You don't want to stir it too much. But risotto should be fun to cook. It's always, for me, it's a fun thing because it generally happens in one pan, which means a really quick clean up. But the fact that you can just make risotto out of anything makes it a really good dish. And once you've got your basic risotto sorted out, then it's a really nice dish to be able to make. So now that's absorbed that second amount of liquid and it is looking and smelling fantastic, we can add our next bit. It's about now that you should start getting excited because you're almost there and it's starting to look and smell really good. So you can see now that most of the liquid started to evaporate on our last lot, and it's thickened up quite a bit. You can see a lot of the starch has been released and it makes it nice and creamy. That's why we use arborio rice, because it's very high in starch levels. So just gently stirring it around, and it's about time to test. So just chew on a bit. You should be able to chew through it, bite through it and have that texture, but definitely don't want to chip the tooth, so make sure you don't go in too early. To finish it off, just want to add plenty of butter. Don't worry about the diet when you're doing this part of it. Your parmesan now, always freshly grated. And always keep it off the heat now as well. You don't really serve risotto piping hot, and this is something in the restaurant that really frustrates me when people send it back and they'll say, oh, you know, my risotto's cold, but you don't want to serve it hot because it's not the right texture. If it's too hot, then it sort of splits out and you get your stock and your butter and all that, it's all separated. But if it's just nice and warm, then it all sort of gels together nicely. So we've got our butter, we've got our parmesan, a little bit more. And now we just stir all this together. Because we've left a bit of the stock in there, not cooked out, that's what sort of melts together with the butter and the parmesan. And that's where you get a really nice creamy result. And that's why sometimes when people make it at home, it's too dry. So just stirring that through, shouldn't take too long because we've diced our butter up nice and small. And while that's just starting to finish melting, I'm going to put a little bit more herb in there, just to give it a little fresh flavour at the end. So just a couple of basil leaves and a little bit of parsley. Run your knife through it. And once again, the other way. And throw that in. Stir that through, and I think it's almost done. We'll have one last little taste for seasoning. So just one taste. And it's beautiful. You don't want to season it too much early because the parmesan is quite salty. So now that's ready to go, get it in the bowl because we want to eat it straight away. And there we have a beautiful mushroom risotto. So that's enough talking because it's time to start eating. But stick around because after the break, another winter favourite, beef burgundy. I can't wait, it's one of my favourite things to cook.